Namaste. Welcome back, Stellar Stargazers, and a warm cosmic hello to our new listeners. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Heather, and you're tuning in to the Stellar Soulcast,
where we decode the cosmos one episode at a time.
And in our last episode, we took a deep dive into the astrological significance of the lunar nodes, exploring mythology, karmic meaning, evolutionary themes, and how the nodes show up in each sign and house.
But today's episode, we're tuning our gaze to Lilith, the Dark Empress, the scorned mystic, alluring and wild, but always prepared for a transformation. Are you ready to tap into this dark moon energy? As always, before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, follow us at the Stellar Soulcast, and open your astro journals because this one is going to get deep. Also, we've got a disclaimer for you today. This episode is going to discuss more mature content than we usually discuss. If you're under the age of 18, pause after this disclaimer and check out some of our other episodes available wherever you enjoy listening to our podcast. While Lilith is fascinating and an empowering area of astrology to understand, some themes may suggest taking action towards the more unconventional side of the psyche and oneself. We do not encourage unethical actions on this podcast. We expect everyone to move with an ethical moral compass and remember that whatever you do will always find your way back to you. So make smart decisions and think about your fellow citizens always. In essence, we do not encourage nor take responsibility for any rogue or reckless decisions that anyone may choose to engage in because of what we discuss in this episode. Thank you. This is the end of the disclaimer. Now let's move into some mythology.
Ooh, all right. Stargazers, now that you've got your astro journals ready, we're about to journey to the dark moon. Before we dive into the backstory of Lilith, let's talk about some celestial facts. Lilith has three main points in astrology, including asteroid Lilith, black moon Lilith, and dark moon Lilith. Black moon Lilith, the focus of this episode, shows the moon's most distant point from Earth. Asteroid Lilith is notable as the only tangible form among them. The dark moon Lilith, or Waldmuth, is considered an astronomical anomaly rather than a solid celestial body, representing the lunar apogee, which is the point farthest from the Earth in the moon's orbit. Now, on to the myths. Sumerian and Babylonian origins, or ancient Mesopotamia. Lilith's mythic roots are ancient, tracing back to the Sumerian and Babylonian civilizations, where she is often depicted as a wind demon or spirit of the night. Lilu, or Lilith, in these early texts, we find the mention of Lilu, male, and Lilitu, female, spirits associated with the wind, storms, and nighttime. Lilitu was often seen as a dangerous force who could steal babies from their cradles, causing illness or even death. Also, the connection with sexuality was very prevalent, often perceived as a figure of uncontrollable lust. This early connection to the darker, more primal aspect of femininity would carry over into later stories about Lilith. In these ancient descriptions, Lilith wasn't a figure of moral judgment, but an untamed force, a manifestation of the natural, chaotic world. Also, the Hebrew Bible and Lilith's rebellion, which is the Judeo-Christian mythology. The myth here is Lilith, as Adam's first wife, originates in Jewish folklore and was later incorporated into medieval and biblical literature. While the Hebrew Bible doesn't explicitly mention Lilith, her story emerges in texts such as the Alphabet of Ben Sira, 10th century CE, and is later expanded by mystical writers like the Kabbalists. Lilith, as Adam's first wife, according to the Alphabet of Ben Sira, Lilith was created as Adam's equal from the same earth, not from his rib as Eve was. However, Lilith refused to be subservient to Adam. In this version of the creation story, Lilith rejected the traditional gender roles and asserted herself independence. This was a deep and rebellious act for the time. The fall of Lilith. When Lilith refused to lie beneath Adam during sex, as the story goes, she was cast out of the Garden of Eden. Her rebellion led to her expulsion, making her a symbol of defiance against patriarchal structures. A demoness in exile, after being cast out, Lilith is often portrayed as becoming a demoness who preys on newborn children, tempting men in their sleep, and seducing men to drain their energy. This further reinforced her role as a figure of danger, sexuality, and darkness. She was also seen as a destroyer of newborn infants, reflecting society's fear of her independence and power. Moving along, Lilith in the Kabbalah, the mystical tradition, in Kabbalist mysticism, Lilith's role in nature deepened. She is seen as the dark feminine, a powerful archetype of shadow and unconscious forces. In the Kabbalistic tradition, Lilith represents the left side of God, or the left-hand path. This is the domain of chaos, disorder, and transgression. Not evil per se, but the shadow side that must be integrated for true balance.
I wonder, if this is like, I don't know if you heard this before, but growing up, I know like in Catholicism, when someone was left-handed, it was kind of looked down upon. I wonder if this is where it comes from.
Ooh, you know what? It could be from then, because...
Have you heard that?
I have. Actually, my best friend in high school, one of my best friends, she went to Catholic school. She was left-handed and then was taught to write with her right hand.
Yes.
So she did write with her right hand when we were in high school, but it wasn't as... her handwriting wasn't the best, and she knew it. And she told me that story, how in Catholic school they actually discredited her for that.
Isn't it something?
That was my first brace with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that could be where it comes from.
Yeah.
A lot of
aggression.
Yes, definitely. But Lilith's story as Adam's first wife is often told as a story of spiritual evolution, the need for both separation and unity. In her rebellion, Lilith moves away from the Edenic idol of total harmony, representing the necessity of individual sovereignty, and the path of seeking wisdom through hardship. The lesson here is that total submission is not always spiritually healthy. Also, feminine energy and Lilith's redemption are very prevalent themes when speaking about her
power.
Yes,
yeah.
About her power, for sure.
Yeah.
And in some mystical schools, there is an evolutionary aspect to Lilith's role. She represents not only the shadow, but also the potential for self-realization. She is often paired with Eve as complementary figures, representing the union of the opposites, which is Eve, and the wild, which is Lilith. And the feminist reclamation of Lilith. In modern times, especially during the second wave feminist movement, Lilith was reclaimed as a symbol of empowerment, autonomy, and sexual liberation. As women began to challenge societal roles and patriarchal constraints, Lilith was resurrected as a goddess of freedom, an archetype of the wild feminine. With the rejection of patriarchy, Lilith's rebellion is now seen not as a flaw, but as a revolutionary act. Her refusal to submit to Adam is interpreted as an act of personal sovereignty, a rejection of hierarchical systems in favor of equality and independence. As for the shadow, Lilith is also seen as an intricate in order to achieve true wholeness. In Jungian psychology, the shadow refers to the repressed, darker aspects of the psyche. Lilith embodies the shadow, not necessarily evil, but the parts of ourselves that have been suppressed, denied, or exiled by societal norms.
So that's like saying it's not doing bad things, but doing things that might be a bit unconventional or not normal in society today because of things that are seen as like non-traditional or secular.
Yeah.
Or I guess non-secular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Non-secular.
Like super traditional. Okay.
For sure. And moving along, Lilith as the archetype of the dark feminine, where she represents in astrology, mythology, and psychology. She embodies the unspoken, the untamed, and the primal forces of nature. She challenges the binary systems of light versus dark, good versus evil, showing that the shadow side of the feminine is just as powerful and as important as the lighter side. So power, sexuality, and anger are prevalent. Lilith is not merely a symbol of passive beauty or nurturing. She is a figure of wild sexuality, rage, and assertiveness. Her dark sexual energy is often feared, but in truth, it is a powerful tool for self-empowerment and personal transformation. She is also considered the witch. Historically, witches were seen as women who wielded power outside the control of patriarchal structures. This connection frames Lilith as a forbidden power, especially when it comes to matters of sexuality and autonomy. Lilith's evolution as the archetype is important to discuss here. Lilith in modern astrology, as she enters our birth charts, she invites us to examine the places where we might feel exiled, where our unconscious desires lie, or where we might need to express ourselves more authentically. She is a key to uncovering what we have repressed or disowned, especially regarding our sexuality, power, and our creativity.
Yes. So Lilith's story is one of rebirth, self-liberation, and healing through embracing the darker, suppressed parts of ourselves. She teaches us to embrace our wildness, to stand firmly in our sovereignty, and accept ourselves as whole. She's more than a figure of rebellion. She is a guide to wholeness. Through her myth, Lilith challenges us to reconcile our inner tensions, to find the balance between control and chaos, light and dark, and to reclaim our own personal power. So here are some themes that Lilith represents. Rebirth through shadow. In astrology, Lilith represents the dark, repressed, and often ignored parts of ourselves. These are the aspects that, when embraced, can lead to profound rebirth. Lilith's placement in the chart symbolizes where we are called to confront the shadow, the hidden desires, the anger, or instincts that we've been conditioned to suppress. In terms of self-liberation and sovereignty, Lilith represents that personal freedom and autonomy. Her refusal to submit to Adam's control is an act of self-liberation. Asserting the sovereignty means standing firm in who we are. Her myth challenges us to reject submission and embrace our right to define our own path, unafraid of breaking from the norm of others and others' expectations. Rebirth occurs when we acknowledge the darker aspects and allow to be integrated into our conscious self. By accepting and expressing these energies, we shed old, limiting identities and step into a more authentic, empowered versions of ourselves. Lilith energy inspires us or invites us to transcend the past and transform by reclaiming the power found in the depths of our own unconscious. Healing through rejection and embracing wholeness. Lilith's rejection and exile embody a healing journey, transforming the wounds of repression into power. By embracing our shadows, we heal the parts of ourselves that have been taught to suppress. Healing is found in accepting all parts of ourselves, particularly our sexuality, our anger, and our desires, and integrating them into our whole being, where we don't push it out towards others, but maybe we use it to help others and also grow within ourselves. Now let's look at wildness and untamed feminine. Lilith embodies the wild, untamed feminine, the force that breaks from the societal constraints. She represents raw, instinct, and authenticity, teaching us to follow our dreams and express ourselves fully. Her wildness invites us to embrace chaos that often leads to creativity and transformation. Accepting ourselves as whole. Lilith's myth is a call to accept all parts of ourselves, not just what is societally acceptable, but also our anger, the sexuality, and shadow of ourselves, showing us that true liberation comes when we stop rejecting the parts of ourselves that's inconvenient, and through acceptance, we reclaim our wholeness, I was really channeling that wildness, to reclaim our wholeness and empower our authentic expression. Lilith's energy challenges us to embrace that wholeness, that sovereignty and wildness, to heal the repression, to live unapologetically in our whole, full, authentic selves. She invites us to transform, reclaiming all parts of ourselves from the shadow to the light. If your sun is the CEO of your chart and your moon is your emotional compass, then Lilith is your inner wild child, the guide who turns rejection into reclaiming your truth. Now, take a deep breath, Stargazers, because up next we're talking Lilith Retrograde. Heather, you ready to guide us through?
Oh, you know it, Sophie. All right, Stargazers, we hope you've got your astro journals ready because we're diving into the mysterious and potent energy of Lilith Retrograde. Now, for those tuning in for the first time, let's do a quick refresher on retrogrades. When a planet or celestial body appears to move backwards in the sky from a perspective on Earth, it's called a retrograde. While this is just an optical illusion, the effects are very real, and it can feel like we're being pulled inward to reflect, reprocess, and recalibrate. Let's break it down. What might Lilith Retrograde feel like? Revisiting repressed desires and shadows are very prevalent. During this retrograde, hidden aspects of yourself, particularly the parts you suppressed or denied, tend to resurface. These might include repressed anger, sexuality, or creativity, and you may have tried to hide away or dismiss. Lilith Retrograde isn't about punishing you. It's about helping you reclaim and reintegrate these parts that make up your full, authentic self. Also, confronting inner rebellion is essential. You may feel a heightened sense of rebellion during this time, like an inner call to break free from rules, societal expectations, or relationships that no longer serve your truth. These feelings of defiance are important. They're your soul asking, where am I still holding back from fully expressing myself? It's a period to stand firm in your sovereignty, whether that's rejecting outdated norms or asserting your boundaries. Also, emotional vulnerability and rawness are crucial. With Lilith Retrograde, your emotional vulnerability may be at an all-time high. You could feel more sensitive than usual, especially around the themes of self-worth, sexuality, and personal freedom. This heightened sensitivity isn't to make you feel exposed. It's an invitation to approach these tender places with compassion, honoring the parts of yourself that may have been dismissed or neglected. Moving along, deepening wisdom around boundaries is an essential theme. Lilith Retrograde is a great time to reflect on your boundaries. They may be too rigid, maybe they're too weak, or even non-existent. This retrograde offers a chance to refine how you protect your energy, express your desires, and assert your needs. Every time you revisit these boundary themes, you're given an opportunity to deepen your wisdom and empower yourself to hold healthy space for both you and others. But don't worry, Stargazers. Sophie and I have some stellar tips to help you navigate Lilith's retrograde with some grace. Now, let's be clear. Lilith Retrograde isn't here to make you feel trapped or powerless. Instead, it's a cosmic invitation to revisit and reclaim the parts of you that have been repressed, denied, or misunderstood. This is a time for self-discovery and acceptance, for understanding that these primal desires are part of our human nature. By acknowledging and embracing these parts of ourselves, we can channel this energy in positive and empowering ways. Lilith is asking you questions such as, where have I been hiding my true desires? Or, what shadows still need to be healed and integrated into my whole self? Another is, how can express my full power unapologetically? And lastly, what boundaries do I need to set to protect my energy and sovereignty? Well, we usually give a heads up as to when planets or celestial bodies are into retrograde or when the next retrograde will occur. But with Lilith specifically, she goes into retrograde quite often, about once a month. When tracking Lilith, some astrologers have used the term zigzag as she zigzags through the sky, spending around 9 months in each sign. And now that we've explored Lilith's stationing, let's talk about how Lilith shows up in our birth chart. Ready, Sophie?
Yep, let's go. It's time to take a tour through the zodiac. Remember, your Lilith placement shows up where you might express more shadowy and unconventional aspects of yourself. Lilith placements in your chart also reveals areas where we're most likely to challenge societal norms and push back against limitations. Starting off with Lilith in Aries, bold, independent, and unapologetic. In Aries, Lilith expresses herself through unfiltered self-expression and personal freedom. This placement gives a fiery, impulsive, and action-oriented quality to Lilith's energy. People with Lilith in Aries may feel the need to assert independence and will not hesitate to fight for what they want, often through direct and bold action. There's an intense desire to be seen for who they truly are, with no compromises. Some examples, some traits: fierce independence, courageous in the face of challenges, and innate drive to claim personal space and authority. The shadow side is impulsivity and a tendency to dominate others or be reckless in pursuit of autonomy. In Taurus, Lilith finds expression in sensuality, material pleasures, and the earthy connection to the physical world. Lilith in Taurus is all about deep-rooted desires for comfort, stability, and pleasure. This placement can have a magnetic allure, often tied to the desire for self-sufficiency and security. Lilith here challenges us to break free from materialistic attachments and comfort zones. Some traits for those with Lilith in Taurus: it's a strong desire for comfort, beauty, and sensuality, deep connection to the physical body and earth. The shadow side of Lilith in Taurus is an attachment to possessions, to comfort, or routines that may hinder growth or flexibility. If you have Lilith in Gemini, you may resonate with being curious, unpredictable, and liberating. Lilith in Gemini brings a sharp, quick-witted energy to her expression. This placement is about mental freedom, communication, and a desire to break boundaries with words and ideas. People with Lilith in Gemini may have a restlessness, be curious in nature, and always seeking to challenge the status quo with fresh perspectives. They are drawn to unconventional, free-flowing communication and are often skilled at debate and provocation. Some traits for those with Lilith in Gemini is intellectual freedom, curiosity, and the ability to provoke change through conversation or writing. The shadow side of Gemini Lilith is they can be manipulative or use their words to control or destabilize others' perceptions of their truth. Lilith in Cancer, which is nurturing, protective, and emotionally intense. In Cancer, Lilith's energy revolves around emotional depth, nurturing, and protection of personal space and family. The placement brings out the desire to protect and nurture oneself and others, but often in an overprotective and very intense way. Lilith in Cancer is deeply connected to family dynamics, ancestral healing, and emotional expression. There is an inherent rebellion against societal expectations of motherhood and nurturing. Some traits with those with Lilith in Cancer is being protective, emotionally intuitive, deeply connected to family and the home. The shadow side is oversensitivity, emotional manipulation, and clinging to unhealthy family dynamics. If you have Lilith in Leo, this is creative, proud, and fiercely expressive. In Leo, Lilith wants to shine. She desires recognition, creativity, and freedom to express herself in the most authentic and dramatic ways. The placement can bring a strong sense of self-confidence, but also a deep fear of being ignored or rejected. Lilith and Leo can struggle with the ego and the pride, and to balance the desire for attention with authentic self-expression. Some traits: being charismatic, creative, confident, and proud, especially when expressing their individuality, are all traits associated with Lilith and Leo. The shadow side of Lilith and Leo, though, is the egocentric tendencies of dramatic outbursts when not receiving the attention or recognition that they feel that they deserve. Lilith and Virgo, perfectionist, analytical, and healing. In Virgo, Lilith's energy is expressed through the need for order, perfection, and self-improvement. This placement can bring a deep desire to fix or heal either oneself or others, but may also struggle with self-criticism or the need to control. Lilith in Virgo seeks to break free from traditional perfectionism and instead embrace self-compassion and imperfection as part of the healing journey. Some traits for Lilith in Virgo: being detailed-oriented, healing energy, having a strong desire to be useful and productive. The shadow side of Lilith in Virgo, though, is perfectionism. There's self-doubt and being overly critical with the oneself and with others. Lilith in Libra, balanced, harmonious, and independent in their relationships. In Libra, Lilith desires balance, fairness, and freedom within relationships. The placement can be highly aware of power dynamics in partnerships and struggle with finding true equality. Lilith in Libra often pushes against traditional roles in love and seek to redefine how relationships rebel in a way people approach love, partnerships, and justice. The strong desire for harmony, balance, and authentic connections will resonate really high with those with Lilith in Libra. The shadow side of this, though, is codependency and having struggles with balancing personal need versus relational needs. Moving on to Lilith in Scorpio, some traits as being intense, transformative, and powerful with their sexual energy. With Scorpio Lilith, there is a mysterious, transformative, and intense sexual energy with these individuals. This placement amplifies the desires for deep, soul-penetrating intimacy and the ability to transform through crisis or shadow work. Lilith in Scorpio can bring out unresolved traumas or hidden fears around power, control, and intimacy. This placement calls for complete personal transformation, embracing and integrating the dark and hidden aspects of the psyche. Some traits with those with Lilith and Scorpio is being highly magnetic, intense emotional depth, and transformative energy. The shadow side, though, of having this placement is the fear of vulnerability. There's power struggles and a hidden emotional manipulative side to those with Lilith and Scorpio. If you have Lilith in Sagittarius, you're freedom-seeking, philosophical, and highly unconventional. In Sagittarius, Lilith's energy is expressed through freedom, exploration, and rebellious spirit that challenges dogma and conventional wisdom. This placement pushes us to embrace truth-seeking without fear of judgment or boundaries. People with Lilith in Sagittarius may feel deeply drawn to spiritual exploration and cultural expression or expansion, often pushing the limits of what's accepted in their quest for a deeper meaning. I can totally see those being like a cult leader kind of having this placement, because the way some people could probably bend the idea of religion and spirituality for their own, like, desires.
That could be a future episode.
Yeah.
What occult leaders have Lilith and Sag?
Yeah. We got to do that. But if you do have this placement, some traits that might resonate with you as being philosophical, adventurous, seeking freedom to explore without any restraints. The shadow side to this placement, though, is a tendency to overstep boundaries, to have a lack of tact or consideration for others' beliefs. With Lilith in Capricorn, there is an energy of being ambitious, structured, and sovereign. In Capricorn, Lilith expresses herself through ambition, discipline, and a desire for personal sovereignty in the material world. Lilith in Capricorn can bring out a deep need for breakthrough from societal expectations around success and ambition, forging an independent path that may challenge traditional systems of authority. This placement is about self-mastery, self-sufficiency in public as well as professional spheres. You may feel ambitious, hardworking, and highly self-resilient and determined if you have this placement. The shadow side, though, to having Lilith in Capricorn is a fear of failure, overworking yourself, and struggling with feelings of being too rigid or controlling. If you have Lilith in Aquarius, you are all about revolutionary, independent, and detached energy. In Aquarius, Lilith is all about breaking norms, revolutionizing society, and embracing the unconventional. The placement is focused on individuality and community in ways that challenge the status quo. People with Lilith in Aquarius have a rebellious streak, especially around issues like societal justice, technology, and group dynamics, and they often find themselves drawn to progressive causes. Those with these placements might feel connected to innovation, being an independent thinker, being focused on societal change and humanitarian causes. With the shadow side of this aspect, detachment from emotions can be seen as too aloof, or detachment from emotions can be present. You may feel too aloof or unfeeling in personal connections. Lastly, Lilith in Pisces, mystical, compassionate, and surrendered. In Pisces, Lilith expresses through deep intuition, compassion, and connection to the spiritual and mystical realms. This placement is all about surrender, healing, and embracing the divine feminine within. Lilith in Pisces call for embracing empathy, compassion for others and oneself, but there can be a tendency towards victimhood and self-sacrificing if boundaries aren't respected.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, Stargazers. Now that we've explored Lilith through the signs, let's layer in those houses. Remember, the house of your Lilith challenges us to become whole by accepting the parts of ourselves we've been conditioned to hide. Lilith in the first house, personal identity and self-expression. If your Lilith is in the first house, it affects your personal identity and the way you present yourself to the world. You might express yourself in ways that feel unconventional or rebellious. There could be a wild or mysterious aura to your personality, and others may find you unapologetically bold, independent, and hard to define. You might also struggle with projecting a persona that doesn't quite feel authentic to who you are. People with Lilith in the first house may push against societal beauty standards, choosing eccentric or alternative styles that reflects your individuality. The shadow side is struggling with self-acceptance or feeling like your true essence doesn't fit into mainstream expectations. The healing journey, however, is embracing your uniqueness and learning that authenticity, even when it feels too much, is your greatest strength. Lilith in the second house, self-worth and material values. Lilith in the second house impacts how you value yourself as well as your relationship with money and possessions. You may resist traditional paths to wealth or find yourself redefining what success and security mean on your own terms. You may reject materialism, lean towards minimalism, or fight for financial autonomy. The shadow side is feelings of unworthiness or scarcity that lead to financial self-sabotage. The healing journey, though, is cultivating a sense of worth, rooted in inner value rather than possessions, and learning to welcome abundance without shame. Lilith in the third house, communication and thought patterns. When Lilith is in the third house, it influences your voice, thinking, and communication style. You might speak in ways that are provocative, poetic, or raw, challenging societal norms in how you share ideas. Maybe you were silenced early in life, and now reclaiming your voice is part of your path. or you gravitate towards taboo topics others often avoid. The shadow side here is the fear of being misunderstood can result in silence or overcompensation. Your healing journey is reclaiming your voice with confidence and trusting that your truth is worth being heard. Lilith in the 4th house, family and roots. With Lilith in the 4th house, the energy of Lilith influences your home life, family, and the way you nurture yourself. This placement often suggests repression or conflict with family dynamics, especially in your early childhood. There may have been feelings of being suppressed or controlled within the home, leading to a desire for independence and autonomy later in life. The home can be a space where you express your wildest side or where you feel the most restricted. There may be hidden wounds within family relationships that need acknowledgement. However, the shadow side is feeling stifled by family expectations or disconnected from your roots. The healing journey is creating a home environment where you can be authentic, safe, and free from any judgment. Lilith in the 5th house, creativity, pleasure, and romance. In the 5th house, this placement stirs fierce independence in self-expression, love, and creativity. You crave pleasure and passion, but want it on your own terms, often clashing with societal expectations. You're bold, artistic, unconventional, with love affairs, magnetic, sexually. Those are all themes here. The shadow side is shame around self-expression or fear of punishment for taking up space and enjoying life. Your healing journey, however, is releasing shame, embracing your playful and creative essence, and allowing yourself to shine without apology. Lilith in the 6th house, work, health, and daily rituals. Lilith in the 6th house challenges norms around productivity, health, and service. You may question authority in work structures or rebel against body expectations. Alternative healing paths, difficulty with rigid workplaces, or burnout from overservice are prominent themes here. The shadow side is perfectionism, health anxiety, or cycles of burnout. The healing journey is honoring your balance and choosing holistic wellness and sustainable routines that support both your body and soul. Lilith in the 7th house, relationships and partnerships. In the 7th house, Lilith impacts your one-on-one relationships. This placement can indicate passionate, intense connections or struggles with power dynamics in relationships. People with Lilith here might attract partners who challenge their boundaries or push them into confrontational situations. Alternatively, they could feel the urge to dominate or assert control in relationships as they grapple with issues of equality, autonomy, and mutual respect. Relationships may bring deep lessons around boundaries, vulnerabilities, and equality here. The shadow side is struggling with control, manipulation, or loss of self in your partnerships. The healing journey, however, is reclaiming sovereignty and cultivating balance, equality in relationships, and building that mutual respect. Lilith in the 8th house, transformation and shared resources. Lilith in the 8th house is about transformation, intimacy, and shared resources. This placement often brings up themes of sexual power, taboos, and deep psychological healing. People with Lilith in this house may feel the need to embrace their own power in intimate situations, potentially challenging societal norms around sex, power dynamics, and possessions. Profound sexual magnetism, taboo interests, or deep expressions with power and vulnerability are prominent. The shadow side here is the fear of losing control in intimacy or giving away power in sexual and financial bonds. Your healing journey is releasing fear around vulnerability and reclaiming personal empowerment in intimacy and shared resources. Lilith in the 9th house, beliefs, travel, and higher learning. Lilith here affects your relationships with belief systems, truth-seeking, and the search for meaning. You may challenge religious, academic, or cultural norms. Rejecting childhood religion, rebellious approaches to education or spirituality, wanderlust-driven growth are all prominent. The shadow side is alienation for your beliefs, or swinging between blind faith and total skepticism. Your healing journey is finding your own authentic philosophy, rooted in freedom, curiosity, and truth-seeking. Lilith in the 10th house, career and public image. With Lilith in the 10th house, Lilith influences your career, your public life, as well as your reputation. People with Lilith here may have a rebellious streak in their career, choosing paths that are often unconventional or against the grain of societal expectations. You may struggle with authority figures or maybe even rise to positions where there may be the ability to empower others to be their true selves in this world. You might be called towards healing, creativity, or activism, something that disrupts that status quo. The shadow side is the fear of failure or criticism in the public eye, difficulty owning your own power. Your healing journey, however, is building a career aligned with your authentic self and embracing visibility without any shame. Lilith in the 11th house, community, vision, and social roles. Lilith in the 11th house affects how you fit into groups and your vision for the future. You may feel like an outsider or the one that shakes up that system. Your rebel energy in social spaces, fighting for marginalized voices, or perhaps you're just a visionary leader. The shadow side here is the fear of rejection by the group, leading to isolation or cynicism. Your healing journey is embracing your role as a change maker while finding communities that truly celebrate your uniqueness. And lastly, Lilith in the 12th house, the unconscious and hidden realms. Lilith in the 12th house is all about the unconsciousness, the hidden, and the mysticism. This placement often suggests that Lilith's energy is deeply buried, hidden away in the subconscious, and may need to be unearthed through introspection or spiritual practices. The 12th house placement could indicate a deep-seated fear of fully embracing one's wild, untamed energy, leading to periods of self-sabotage, hidden rebellion, or self-repression. Deep spiritual or mystical sensitivity, but also self-doubt or hidden self-sabotage are prominent themes. The shadow side here is suppressing your wildness, leading to isolation or confusion or self-undoing. Your healing journey, however, is exploring the subconscious through spiritual practice or therapy, reclaiming your hidden power and integrating your shadow with compassion.
All right, Stargazers, we talked about Lilith through the signs and houses. Now it's time to get personal with you. Let's open up and share where Lilith shows up in our own charts, because sharing is caring, growing, and understanding.
Oh, absolutely, Sophie. And remember, Stargazers, Lilith and all the other placements will manifest differently for each individual. Your chart is individualized to you, and there can be some aspects that differ from person to person, or even if we have the same Lilith, you can express that differently than we do. Sophie, would you like to start?
Sure. So my Lilith is in Virgo, and it's in the 2nd house. And this placement calls for embracing authentic self-worth and balancing the desire for perfection with self-compassion and freedom. Lilith in Virgo in the 2nd house blends Virgo's perfectionism with the 2nd house focus of values, resource, and self-worth. maybe you resonated with this earlier, but self-criticism can be a key theme when having this placement. I know that sometimes I struggle with feeling like my worth is sometimes tied to being perfect in my work or with my resources, or sometimes I could lead with self-judgment or underestimating my value, which is something I've had to work on. Also, themes of rebellion against materialism. So rejecting ideas of wealth instead of valuing authenticity, health, or service over material success, which are things that I also can say that I resonate with, where there was a point where I was like, you know, I don't need all this stuff. I don't need this. I don't need that. That's like tied to materialism. Like I just living a simple, very like, you know, low key life, because who needs all that stuff? Also like perfection and freedom also being a theme, where it's the push and pull between wanting to meet high standards but also needing to embrace imperfection, which I have to say this is one of the big things when addressing like my Lilith and Virgo, where it's like I'm constantly like I could be perfect, and like even having my North Node in Virgo and then also having the Lilith in Virgo, it's kind of that, okay, I'm supposed to lead in a more practical way where I'm organized and I'm able to help people, but in a way that's, you know, it works for me and it works in a systematic way, but it's also having that Lilith in Virgo where it's like, you don't need to be that way. Why? Society's telling you to be that way, but you don't need to do that. There's parts of you that needs to be, you know, the opposite of perfect, a complete mess, because that in itself is a part of nature and a part of life. So I totally resonate with that. But also, I mean, I personally don't deal with this because I feel like I've worked on this when I was younger, but healing my self-worth, where sometimes those with Lilith and Virgo, you might have to confront issues around self-esteem, encouraging yourself to release perfectionism and accept intrinsic value, where if you're a young adult, because as we said, if you're younger than 18, should not be listening to this, but if you're a young adult and you have this placement and you feel like, you know, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not good enough and I have to give up. Do not hold on to that. Understand that just like with everything in life, and what Lilith should actually teach you is that chaos is a part of life. It's a part of nature. There's a reason why entropy is a thing in science. It's a reason why things only happen when things are not perfect, right? We wouldn't be here. Life wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have what we know of society and earth and all this is if like perfect was a thing. So embrace your imperfections and move forward in a way where you can just move through life with being who you are and authentic with however that shows up, but not limiting yourself through these constricting societal, you know, norms.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Heather, I love to reel you in. Share. Yours is awesome.
Oh,
I love to hear about your placement.
All right. So mine is totally different from being in Virgo. My Lilith is in Capricorn and in the 5th house. So Lilith in Capricorn in the 5th house blends Capricorn's ambition and structure with that 5th house energy of creativity, pleasure, and self-expression. Lilith in Capricorn in my 5th house pushes me to really reclaim my creative power and joy by challenging self-imposed limitations around authority play and self-expression, ultimately encouraging me to own my creativity and my right to have fun in a meaningful and authentic way. So there's a lot going on there, I feel. Very opposing in a little bit of ways.
Right. There is.
Yeah.
Because there's that structure with this playful energy of the fifth house, which is like usually associated with Leo, and we know how Leos can be. So I'm sure you have to, constantly balance it. Also Capricorn. It's this obsessed energy, which is not bad because that's why so many Capricorns are so successful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's true.
Like Scorpio, I think Capricorns are definitely one of those when they do have it, when they can hone in on that energy in a more positive way, which, with each of these placements, we all hope that you move in a positive direction with them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing, because I have so many Capricorn placements.
Yeah.
Not just as my stellium, but when you include Lilith and you include my node. And I believe, you know what? Let's bring it up here. Okay, so I have my moon, I have my north node, I have my Uranus, I have my Saturn, and I have my Lilith all in Capricorn.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on there in Capricorn, especially with my north node and my and Lilith guiding me in a way, right?
Exactly.
So there might be some darkness there in that creativity and that playfulness, but the structure of Capricorn with that north node of trying to put in that CEO energy or that leadership energy.
Yeah.
It brings about a tenacity to move forward. But there's a lot of adult energy that goes with it. So with Capricorn being, how do I word this well? Where Capricorn has always, for me, resonated with a more adult type energy.
Yeah, of
and
course.
Yeah, and it's also said like old soul.
100%.
Capricorns tend to have old souls.
Yeah.
So
in the tarot deck, the devil is the Capricorn.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with the tarot deck, so that's
I just think it's fascinating.
That's very fascinating.
I think
that's very fascinating, especially with Capricorn being associated with that old soul energy.
Yeah.
And with my Lilith there, which is a very adult, old soul type of feminine energy, going back to, as we expressed before, especially in the Judeo-Christian type of mythological reveal of the Adam and Eve and Lilith, and her comparison, like we said earlier, with Eve. And growing up as a Catholic, it's interesting because we don't talk about Lilith. We don't.
Yeah.
Even though she's so prevalent with it.
I feel like I didn't learn about Lilith until I was like much older, like an adult. Like even in my late, like being 18, 19, like I didn't hear about Lilith.
Oh,
I didn't even know
absolutely
that she was even connected to any Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic religion backstory.
And it's interesting because with Lilith,
as a Catholic, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, because as growing up as a Catholic, the same. And this might, as we had discussed in our last episode, I have a little bit of a, I don't want to use the word nerd. I don't like to use that, but like a very, my nature of just loving supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And in Supernatural, I don't know, have you ever seen it, Sophie? I don't know if we ever spoke about it.
No.
Oh my god.
No, I
actually
haven't.
We may have spoken about this in a past episode.
I know,
but
my fiance likes it a lot.
Oh my gosh, love Supernatural.
Yeah.
Dude, I know I've spoken to him about it. me and my husband love it, and it's my sister, I adore Supernatural, but the reason why I bring up Supernatural is I first started watching Supernatural about or 9 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. So I was like 24. Lilith was a major theme in there, and she was the first demon created by the angel Lucifer.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I remember being very fascinated with looking at the lore of Lilith at the time because of Supernatural. And the one thing I will say about Supernatural, it does play a lot on that Judeo-Christian lore and philosophy, and brings in things like purgatory and 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 things,
and
all
of that
these
nature, like realms.
But
and
yes, and it's very on that, and they do have other mythological stuff within the show, but to go off it, I really didn't know about Lilith until I watched it. And I remember turning to my husband, who is my boyfriend at the time, and I go to him, I was like, yo, this show is so prevalent on the themes of Christianity and Catholicism. I was like, who's Lilith? I really didn't know. I felt like I heard the name, but didn't really know the name. So it's interesting to see that play in. But for some reason in church and catechism, we weren't taught it.
Yeah, and I think that through the myths, and when I was researching for the episode, I think a lot of people mentioned that, she isn't mentioned because throughout history, as we all, whether we want to accept it or not, women were taught to be very submissive and subservient. So why would they want to highlight, a part of mythology or folklore or whatever you want to call it, of a woman empowering herself? And no one is saying that a woman should, hurt anyone, especially children, never. But, through the other themes associated with Lilith, which is empowering herself, saying like, I'm not gonna be seen as beneath you, because think about women, just in a biological sense. I mean, women give birth to life. Yeah. Of course we need men, and I will never downplay the importance of, the counterpart, but just even like the idea that women bring life, but throughout history and throughout the ages, women have been told to like be quiet, be, silent, not, have an opinion, not be able to express, aggression or, dissatisfaction. It kind of sucks. Yeah. And for whatever reason, this has been a theme that continues on. And, I think some of the stories that is associated with Lilith is, a little scary, and and I don't think that like it should be taken in its literal sense. But I think that there's a part to it that, if wherever and whoever you are, because it's not just women who have Lilith in their chart, it's everyone who has Lilith. Yeah. But we can learn to be our authentic self and show up despite the things that society tells us that we cannot do or feel or act on, as long as it's not hurting someone else. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Lilith is a placement that should be explored. Yeah. And despite the darkness that might be associated with her, but as you said, right, culturally and historically speaking, it's that kind of that black spot in femininity that is unfortunately been pushed down. Yeah. But it's important to explore her, because I believe that there's so much more positivity that's there. Exactly. And you learn possibly from... You learn from both the good and the bad. Right. And nothing is ever purely good, and nothing is ever purely bad. Yeah.
you have to have a balance. That's the yin and yang of life. This beautiful cosmos we live in works on it, right? That gravitational force.
Yeah.
The entire universe, whether you believe in the Big Bang or however we're coursing through this cosmic wave, we are here because of the gravitational pulls that are out there, right?
Exactly.
We stay here because of that yin and yang, that gravity. We even revolve around the sun with it.
Right.
So my point is that the world and theory goes on with opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really Lilith, in some degree, can be looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really nice.
Oh.
All right, Stargazers, it's time to open up those astro journals and get tender with ourselves. This week's homework isn't about creating a master plan to take over the world, but it's a guide to understanding you and showing up in your most authentic energy. It's time to discover your Lilith placement. Now, I want you guys to look up where Lilith is in your natal chart, what sign and house she occupies. If you're not sure how to find this, there's plenty of online resources. As we mentioned, you do need where you were born, the time you were born, your birth date, and you can use apps like Time Passage, astro.com, AstroSeek, where you can generate your full birth chart for free, which is really nice. And once you found your Lilith placement, spend some time reflecting on how this energy shows up in your life. And answer the following questions. How do you express your authenticity and power in the area of your life ruled by Lilith's house? What themes of rebellion, boundaries, or self-liberation do you notice in that area? And are there any places in your life where you're suppressed or avoidant with this energy? Write about where in your life do you feel the need to break from expectations or rules, how you can embrace the part of yourself with power and authenticity, just like Lilith would. And your mission for this week is to embrace your wellness. Lilith is about embracing the parts of ourselves that we've been told to hide. So write about a time where you felt like you could have expressed your true self, what you held back, and how you can begin to reclaim that part of you now.
And Stargazers, we've journeyed through the wild, powerful energy of Lilith, and now it's your turn to connect with her in your own chart, like Sophie just expressed. Take those prompts and re-listen, go back, and really channel those questions that Sophie asked. And remember, Lilith is all about reclaiming your sovereignty, embracing your full self, and stepping into your true power. Take what you've learned today, reflect, and let Lilith's energy guide you toward your authentic and unapologetic self. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we would really like to know where your Lilith placements are. So feel free to share with us on social media or in the comments below. Before we say our stellar ciao for now, don't forget to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss a cosmic drop. Follow us on all our socials at the Stellar Soulcast for your daily astro inspo and updates. And like we said, share your Lilith sign and house. We love to hear how transformation shows up in your chart. With that, we want to remind you all to keep reaching for the stars and trusting the vibes. Until next time, Stargazers.